Hi, I'm Corey Knight here with David Buckingham, a Kentucky Supreme Court Justice. So, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your high school career. I hear you did speech. What categories did you do in speech?
Speech and debate is what we called it then, and I don't know if it's, I think maybe it's termed differently now, but primarily I did debate, and I don't even know if that's what they call it anymore. They did have Lincoln Douglas debate, I know, after I left, and but that was a big part of my years at Murray High School. I believe that training in speech and debate really gave me the self-confidence and the ability to stand and speak in front of others, and I believe it had a pretty good impact on the success that I had in college and after that as well.
So, do you have any high school memories that you'd like to talk about that made you who you are?
Gosh, I don't know. I have a lot of fond memories. I played on the golf team, have a lot of fond memories of that. I was involved in High Y. I don't know if they still have High Y or not, but that's when we would go to Kentucky Youth Assembly at the state capitol, which coincidentally is where my office is now. And the memories that I have on the speech and debate trips were really great. Just associating with the other students, competing against other schools, and you know, it was a very positive experience.
Did you have any teachers or friends that helped motivate you? And
I remember the speech and debate coach was named Bill Jeffrey. I know he died many years ago, but he was a great motivator, and he brought a lot out of you. He was tremendous in the way that he made you more confident in your abilities to communicate with others. He was probably the greatest influence that I had in high school. And I remember we dedicated our senior annual to Margaret Dunn, and she was a math teacher, geometry, algebra, and she's a good friend of mine to this day. She still lives here in Murray. I treasure her friendship.
what made you want to pursue law as a career?
Again, I guess I have to go back to speech and debate, and I hate to say that was all that I did in high school because I feel like I did more than that. But, you know, debating, arguing, that's kind of, you know, analyzing issues, that's a little bit of what lawyers do. And by the time I was finished with high school, I thought that's what I wanted to do. So when I went to Murray State, I majored in what they call pre-law, or political science is what I actually majored in.
So I hear that you're one of 4 people who have served as served in all sorts of
all of the courts in Kentucky. There's 4 levels of courts in the state of Kentucky, Commonwealth of Kentucky. There's district court, circuit court, and then the 2 appellate courts, the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court. And with my recent appointment to the Kentucky Supreme Court, I've now served at all 4 levels. There are only 3 others in the history of the Kentucky court system that have served at all those levels. One is a friend of mine who's now on the Kentucky Supreme Court, Lawrence Van Meter from Lexington, and then a retired judge from Louisville, and the other judge was also from Louisville.
How did you get roped into becoming a Kentucky Supreme Court judge?
Well, I thought when I left the Court of Appeals 8 years ago or 9 years ago after serving there for 14 years, I intended to cut back and somewhat retire. I practiced part to full time. I served as the board attorney for the Murray City Schools, and I began to say, well, it's maybe time for me to maybe retire. But then this opening on the Kentucky Supreme Court came, and we went through a selection process where a committee met and screened all of the applicants and interviewed all the applicants and sent 3 names to the governor. And then the governor's office, I went to Frankfort twice and was interviewed by people in the governor's office. And out of the 3, they chose me, and I feel very honored that they did.
So, I can only wonder, what does it feel like to finally put those robes on?
Well, I've been wearing those robes for 30 years. It started when I was elected district judge back in 1980, the fall of 81. I was elected and took office in January of 82. And, you know, I thought I had worn the black robe for the last time 8 or 9 years ago, and it feels a little bit different now wearing it again.
What types of cases do you deal with on a normal basis?
We have basically two types of cases, criminal cases and civil cases. Criminal cases are cases where persons have been charged with committing a crime. In order for it to go to the Supreme Court of Kentucky, it has to be a very serious crime. The person has to have been sentenced to at least 20 years to life or even a death penalty sentence. So only in the very serious criminal cases do they make it to the Kentucky Supreme Court. Also, we hear and review civil cases. Civil cases would typically involve lawsuits for money. It could be medical malpractice. It could be a contract disagreement. Before it ever makes it to the Supreme Court, though, it has to be fairly significant in one way or another, money-wise or otherwise. Recently we've heard, and obviously I can't talk about it because the case is still pending, but we've recently heard arguments in a case of Attorney General Andy Beshear versus Governor Matt Bevin. And those types of cases are the kind that make it all the way to the Supreme Court.
Did you ever think that you were gonna, when you graduated high school, that you become what you are now or who you are now in the position that you're in?
No, I didn't. You know, when we all, and this is, I'll see a lot of old friends later this summer that I graduated with 50 years ago. And a few of our classmates have died in that period of time, and that's very sad. But as a whole, our class was very successful. But you know, you never know where life is going to take you. I thought I had retired pretty much 8 or 9 years ago, other than, you know, working part-time, 30 hours a week maybe. But, you know, and then this thing with the Supreme Court came up, and it kind of came out of nowhere. It was something I didn't expect. So no matter how young you are, or no matter how old you are, if you're older like me, things good can happen in your life, and you just don't know where life's going to take you. When I got out of Murray High School, all I knew was that I was going to graduate, I was going to go to Murray State. When I graduated from Murray State, all I knew is I was going to go to law school. After that, I didn't know what was going to happen. And you go down different roads. I thought maybe I would go down a road where I would practice law all of my life, and that didn't happen. I practiced law 4 years before I became a judge, and went down that road for 29 years. I guess you've got to always keep your eyes open as to what opportunities there are for you in life, because sometimes they come quickly, sometimes only after several years will you get the opportunity that you really want.
I was just wondering if there were like any points like in all the paths you took, if there were any points like where it seemed too hard, like you wanted to give up and not pursue law?
That's a good question. My first year in law school, I was not expecting what was going to be thrown at me. There's a vast difference in the way that classes are conducted at a university as compared to law school. And to be quite frank, I did not excel. I barely made it through the first semester when I was in law school. And there were times I never really thought about quitting. If I had thought about it, I probably would have quit and gone down some other avenue in life. And then throughout the years that I was in law school, I was not a star student. I did okay, I passed. But once I got out of law school, that's when a light seemed to click, a light seemed to go on, and I knew where I wanted to go. I've never had anyone come into my office as either a lawyer or a judge and ask me what my grades were in law school. So if you're in high school and you're not making good grades, that doesn't mean you're not going to become a Supreme Court justice, a successful business person, a university professor, whatever it is that you might have envisioned for yourself. The fact that you may not have made good grades in high school or law school or even professional school, that's not going to be, I mean, it's going to help, but that's not going to be relevant, and that's not going to define you for the rest of your life and what you want to do. The only advice I could give is always try to do the right thing, and always try to keep your eyes open as far as what opportunities there are that come your way. I think if you treat people the way you would want to be treated, and if you work hard in whatever avenue that you go down in life, that you go through in life, then you're going to be successful.
So I'd like to thank you for coming out and just telling us and elaborating on becoming a Supreme Court Justice. And yeah, this is Corey Knight signing off at WMHS TV 13.
Thank you, Corey. No problem.